This is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 93 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And today our guest is inspirational speaker, self-help blogger, certified life coach, and author of All That Matters, a book about families, Ayana Iman. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about the power of manifesting and navigating change. So I think as dream drivers, there are going to be things that happen to us, and there are going to be things that we want. And we have to realize, how do we connect the two, right? How do we navigate change that happens to us? And then how do we go about seeking things to come into our life? This is what Ayana is just so transparent and so candid when she shares her own journey. So I hope that you guys enjoy hearing from her about those topics. Some of the other things that we talk about in this episode is the idea of stumbling your way through adulthood, how Ayana found out she was pregnant, and the idea of creating life and figuring out your own life at the same time. Balancing a 9-to-5, the 3 A's of change, how motherhood has affected her journey as an entrepreneur, what to do if you're struggling with confidence, and so much more. This episode was filled with so many insights, so many points where you can reflect on where you are along your journey and what you have to do in order to get where you want to be. If this is your first time listening to Dreams and Drive, I do invite you to follow us on social as well. We are across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Dreams and Drive. And you can also use the hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing and interacting with us as well, so that I can find out who is talking about the show and share what you guys are saying as well. If you want today's show notes, just go to dreamsanddrive.com and click on episode 93. There are lots of goodies there. They're going to be tweetables from this episode as well. So you definitely want to make sure you check out our show notes page on the website. Also, remember that you are invited to join our Dreams and Drive Facebook group. All you have to do is go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook and you can sign up to be a part of the group there. I can't wait to hear what you guys think of this episode. I know that you are going to truly enjoy it. Make sure to send me an email, send me a tweet, send me an Instagram message, and tell me what you think post episode. Enjoy. Hi, Ayana. Thank you so much for being a guest on today's episode of Dreams and Drive. I'm excited to chat with you.
I'm excited as well. Thank you for having me.
You have been somebody that, as I was saying to you before, I have a list of screenshots or an album just with screenshots of people that I wanted to be on the podcast and I wanted to reach out to. So when a mutual connection that we both had connected us, I'm like, well, everything is everything is aligning. Everything is happening when it's supposed to happen. So I'm happy that this is actually, that we're here talking now.
I'm happy as well. I think that everything happens when it should, as it should.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I love to start our interviews with, I think it's important to kind of go back in time, is to think of, who was Ayana the child? So if I had to say, what were you like as a 7-year-old? What was inspiring you back then?
Well, I probably can't remember what I was like as a 7-year-old, but just as a child, I was very quiet and very much an introvert. I was shy. I didn't like to speak too much. I was only myself, as you probably know me today, around family, not even necessarily around friends. Mm-hmm. I grew up with dreadlocks, and I say that for the reason of it wasn't an it thing back then. It wasn't this hairstyle that was highly regarded. It was something that was a part of certain political movements, and it just wasn't the cool thing in the 90s. So I was definitely picked on and teased on going into elementary, the higher grades, so 4th and 5th. And I grew up in Trenton, New Jersey. So just being in an area that's very close to New York and very close to Philadelphia, just kind of always loving to wander and get lost. Mm-hmm. But again, an introvert. So I just kind of sat there understanding, what people were doing, why they were doing it. I love to read books. And I was a little creepy. I like to read creepy. Like, I like to read like mystery and magic. So R.L. Stein, even though it wasn't too scary, or Stephen King. I was very much into like scary movies. And it's funny because I'm the complete opposite now. Like, I won't touch a scary movie. But back then, I just think mystery and magic. I think when you grow up in an urban neighborhood, for me, it was always about like, what can transport me out of here? And so I was a very aware person, quiet or not. And those books kind of took me to another place. So I guess that's what I was like as a kid.
So you said you had locks growing up. Was that a choice of yours, or was it something that like your parents wanted you to have and you didn't really have a choice?
I did not have a choice. I was 5 when I got locks, and I cut them off when I was 17 years old.
Did you enjoy having it, although, you know, people used to tease you and you used to get picked on?
You know, it's interesting. When I was really young, like when I first got them, I didn't notice. I don't think you really notice your differences. You're kind of just a little kid being a little kid. It wasn't until I started to get picked on that I realized that I was different from the other people in my community. I mean, like, we looked the same, had the same skin complexion, we talked the same, but they made me realize very quickly that we were not the same. And so, you know, I took a little bit of it took a little bit of confidence for me to really accept that my hair was beautiful. But fortunately, it wasn't until I damaged my hair after dyeing it. And,
oh, wow.
And so that's a whole nother story.
How long were your locks before you cut them?
Like shoulder length. I mean, they had grown and then I cut them. And then from dyeing your hair, you know, your hair just starts to fall off in different places. And I was very young, and I mean, dyeing, bleaching my hair bright red. I guess it was my way of experimenting. I was never able to just put my hair in a ponytail or pigtails and do the cool things the girls in my neighborhood did. YouTube was not around. No one to show me the cool styles that you can do with dreadlocks. No one to show me how to love on my hair, love on myself, other than the people around me. But who really listens to their parents at that young age?
That's true. It's like your parents are the antagonist, right, in your life. Like, you're always trying to go against what I want to do with my life. So okay. So what was the dream back then? Like, what was the thing that young Ayana really wanted to do with her life?
I wanted to be an actress. I loved like role playing with like my teddy bears. I remember having like my teddy bear and making myself cry and just telling, like, I guess I was a teddy bear's mother. And I was just like, baby, it's going to be okay. Like, we got this. And I remember my mother like walking into the room and just kind of laughing, like, you're so dramatic. But yes, definitely an actress. And then as I went into my teenage years, I wanted to be a fashion editor. Andre Leon Talley was like my God with an AWD. Like, he was like amazing. And I just thought he was just this beautiful person. And he was everything that fashion, you know, wasn't supposed to be: big, black, and gay. And I was just, well, I'm Black, I have dreadlocks, I'm from this urban neighborhood, you know, then maybe I can also be a fashion editor. So that was actually my dream for a while.
How did that play out? Like, did you do anything in high school, in college that focused on that stuff?
Yeah, I definitely started taking classes at LIM in New York, the Business School of Fashion. And I actually started those classes when I was 14 or 15. And I would leave Trenton and travel to Manhattan every Saturday or every other Saturday by myself.
That's a long train ride. That's like an hour and a half, right?
Like an hour and 15.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
when you do the express. So it's not bad. I've worked in New York in different internships for most of my life. So I've been very fortunate in that regard. But going to LIM by myself, I guess my parents had a lot of trust. And it was a good thing. I was around all types of people. I can't necessarily remember what was done in the classrooms because I was just a fan of going to New York. I just remember leaving class and walking around the fashion district and, you know, getting a bite to eat in Times Square and just being 14 and being young and having fun. And that's when tickets were not as expensive as they were now.
So you went to, so I always say it wrong. Is it Kean or is it Kean University? Because everyone says it differently.
Everyone does say it differently. I mean, I went to Kean University. There's a lot of people who went to Kean University. I personally don't understand. If it's not Kane, then, but I'm not here to fight anyone. It is what it is. We were both educated at the same university, then all is right in the world.
All right. So what did you study at Kean?
I went to undergrad for journalism communications.
Okay. So you studied that, and like, were you still like during your college years trying to be, an editor? Like, was that the focus then as well?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because it's funny how much you forget. So I was actually the fashion editor for 2 years. So my junior year and senior year, I was the fashion editor of Kean's newspaper, The Tower. Mm-hmm. And I remember having to write the articles and find people to interview and take photos. And so, yeah, I ran that little column until I graduated.
What was the next step after graduation?
A lot, actually. It was a lot of randomness. I started an internship at the Javits Center. It was very cold there, but I started the Javits Center.
Like actually cold, or just cold as in people?
Just actually cold. No, actually, okay. I remember sitting there because the room they had the interns in had no windows, and it was just very cold, like freezing. Like you had to wear a winter coat. So that's one of my very vivid memories. But other than the Javits Center, if I did that between May and August, then I got hired in September for my first position, and I worked in Jersey City at this company in Jersey City that sold hair. But I was the social media coordinator, and I also sold hair when I needed to. So it was very interesting growing up as this Black girl, never wearing weave before, and then selling this hair and kind of being good at it. I don't know if that's Black girl magic or what happened. But that was a funny story. I didn't last long there. After Hurricane Sandy, I was unable to get to my job because the path wasn't running. And I would come from Trenton. So I was commuting from Trenton to
Jersey City.
Crazy. And my salary wasn't good. I mean, it was my first job. I think when you have your first job, you're not really thinking. When you're not that educated on job offers, just kind of like, oh my God, college graduate, first job, full benefits. I'm living the dream. And then you get there and you're like, no, you're not really living a dream. You're actually paying to get to work. And that's kind of it. And so went to Jersey City. The path wasn't running for 1 week. I remember that. And I remember having to go to Newark. And instead of transferring to get to Grove Street, I remember having to take the bus. And there were so many people displaced from getting to work that, buses weren't running on schedule. And I was still getting to work late. If I had to be there at 9:30, I was getting there at 10:30. So then I had to start going. And this is all on my dime. Like they didn't have a transit check. I was going all the way to New York every day, taking the Manhattan Mall pass stop back to Jersey City to go to work, walk to work, and then take the path back to New York.
What?
So yeah, but I didn't last long because I was fired, unfortunately, because my work started to get affected by me not getting, when I wasn't really getting sleep. Like I was waking up at 5 and 4:30 to get on the train to get to work when I didn't have to be there until 9:30 in the morning. Even though I was from Trenton and I was traveling from far away and everyone else lived in Jersey City, Hoboken, I was always the first to get to work. But then
though when you were late or before the Hurricane Sandy
started, I was the first to get to work and I was not a key holder. So I was always waiting to get in the office. And I basically went from the first person, always on time, to always being late. And although it was out of my control, there were some other factors that factored into why I was let go. And I should have known that I wouldn't have lasted long just from how the hiring manager was. Mm-hmm. But again, that's something that you don't know when you don't have that kind of experience.
So one thing you mentioned before was that as a social media coordinator, you said you were good at selling hair. Like how did you know you were good? And was this like a Black-owned hair company, or was it kind of like a for all people type of hair company?
Well, let's just say it was not Black owned.
I meant to say for Black women. That's what I meant to say, like a Black woman hair company or...
No, it was, well, you know what? There was a lot of Hispanic women, a lot of African-American women, and a lot of just Black women. I'll say Black because they were from all over. And Haitian, everyone came in. It was very boutique-y, and the people that owned Indique actually owned our company.
Okay.
So very pricey, very expensive, very good quality. The hair was straight from India, and by the way, there's no such thing as Brazilian hair. And it was all straight from India or Cambodia. And yeah, I think I was good at it. I mean, I think I tried maybe a style or two of wearing like a different style with weave, but it wasn't for me. I didn't know how to really work it. But selling it was different. I understood matching people's hair and understanding. I mean, I'm a Black girl, so I think there are some things that might be ingrained, although I didn't wear it. I was around it enough to kind of know, like, you know, what kind of hair texture was best for you or what you were looking for. But yeah, I think when people came there, it wasn't really a hard sell. You had to make an appointment to even get in the door.
So what year was this?
This was 2012.
Okay, so 2012. So you got fired. Did that take you said it didn't really take you by surprise?
Well, the part of me thinking it didn't take me by surprise was something I learned years later. But getting fired definitely took me by surprise because I had never been fired before from any job. I was the person, especially when you're young and you have your family support, that if I didn't like something, I would leave. I've worked at Sam's Club. I've worked at Sesame Place. I worked at all these places. And I would just quit when I was just like, you know what, this is not for me. But in this job, you know, getting out of college, this is my first, you know, I guess, big job with the salary. And so I was not going to quit. And I was, you know, I guess I was failing or fumbling my way through adulthood. It's something you do very quickly. And so I was just trying to live the dream, as they tell you to do. And when I was fired, it definitely hurt. It definitely hurt because I knew I was a good worker and I knew I was a good person, but I felt like they made me out to be this aggressive person, in terms of like, when you come into the store, there was a camera. You were always on camera. And I remember when she sat me down, she sat me right in front of the camera. And it took me years to realize that, why did she do that? And it was like, I'm not this irate person. I'm not this, you know, fly off the wall person. But I remember when she hired me, she said, Ayana, I think you're a really good candidate. However, I feel like you have this strong personality. And I asked her, like, well, what do you mean? She's like, I don't know. I just feel like, you know, I'm not sure if you'll get bored at this job. And so I was taken aback when she said that because, one, I had never had a real job. And two, I didn't know what she meant if I was this 21-year-old fresh out of college, no real work experience, and you're telling me that I might get bored or that I have this strong personality. And I realized that sometimes people see your power before you do. And so what happens is they try to mitigate it and they try to take it from you. And I definitely let her have it. When she fired me, I just felt like the world had ended and I felt like I failed. And I was really in a rut. And then there was another series of events right after that really changed my life as well. But that definitely took a toll on me. And I felt like, okay, I'm the only Black woman in this company and you put me in front of the camera to fire me. And I think my only words to her were, why didn't you just call me? I was like, I could have saved the train fare to get here. And
so she did this like the beginning of your work day.
Yes. Yeah. And so I was like, girl, I'm more mad that I paid for train fare to get here. And so that was my biggest qualm from that day. Like I wasn't sure what she was looking for. It was never going to be a curse out. I just said, thank you for, the position and I wish you well. And that was kind of it.
After you leave this company, you said you were kind of in a rut. How did you navigate what to do next?
Navigate or,
what happened, if you don't mind,
a series of events. So one was, I had lost my home, right? Like a few weeks after. And what else? Lost my home. So I didn't have like a home per se. And I also found out, well, I also was turning 22. So that was in November. All that happened in November, losing your home and losing my home and losing my job. And then in December, my birthday's on the 10th. On the 9th, I was, I guess you can call it a proposal. It was a sham of a proposal, but it was a commitment, I guess.
Okay. Like a wedding, like a life commitment?
You know what? I'm older now. So back then maybe it meant more to me. Right now, I say it was a commitment.
Okay.
And from someone that I was dating. And then a few weeks later, I found out I was pregnant.
Okay.
And so it was a crazy year. It was a crazy year. It started off really high on the mountaintops, and I got in a very low valley.
Okay, so you had the commitment. You found out you were pregnant. What were you feeling?
Well, before I found out I was pregnant, my face really, really broke out, and I was really, really sick.
Okay.
And so I was just under a lot of stress, especially after like losing my job and losing my home. And you kind of just feel like you have no footing. Like God, you find yourself talking to God, like, God, I did everything I was supposed to do. I went to school. I got good grades. I'm in this relationship. I'm really happy. But what's going on with me? Like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And then I find out, okay, you weren't just sick, you were pregnant. And so that brings a whole nother level of stress because you don't have a home. You're not financially stable. You're living with other family members trying to figure it all out. You realize that the person who you are now having a baby with is actually a boy, and you're asking a boy to be a man before his time.
Mm-hmm.
You start to see the holes in your relationship, and you're like, oh wait, I'm really young. Like, oh wait, I'm very naive. Oh wait, I'm not ready for this. But you're already knee deep in it, and you're forced to make tough decisions, and you're forced to, bear the brunt of those decisions and to make it work.
What kind of tough decisions did you have to make during that time?
Tough decisions like, about work. I was really sick with AO. Bedridden for at least a month or two. And maybe not necessarily bedridden, but so nauseous that, and I got really bad migraines that I could not do much. Mm-hmm. And it prevented me from working because I was so sick, constantly throwing up, constantly laying down and sleeping for hours. So just imagine losing your home. You have no job. You graduated college. You're pregnant, and you don't even have, a comfortable place. Not even within. Like, home is within, but you're not even comfortable within your own body. Mm. And so I had to make some decisions. Like, I had to give up an internship with this woman who's actually doing pretty, really well right now. I had to give up an internship with her. After I lost my job, I applied for an internship. This is such a random side note. And so I got the internship, and I was so excited because I was like, you know what, God, maybe I wasn't supposed to have this job. Maybe I'm supposed to still be figuring it out. And I feel like this is it. And I was so excited and so grateful. Then I find out I'm pregnant. Then I get really, really sick. And then I have to give up my dream internship. So that happened.
Wow.
And it was, it's sad because I'm still very much involved in everything that she does in terms of all her work and very supportive. So I'm so excited that I get to see things manifest that probably I would have known back then during that internship. I digress. But I gave up that internship, unfortunately, and I had to, let go of my ego because I had to learn to get things together. I had to sign up for WIC. I had to figure out health insurance through the government. I had to just get life together really quickly. I had to live in places I didn't want to. I had to be very uncomfortable, all while still figuring it out, still trying to piece my life back together. And that's very hard when you feel a lot outwardly and inwardly. And then that's kind of when I started my freelancing career and taking on freelance gigs to at least pay my cell phone bill, and just kind of realizing what my new normal looked like. Just accepting it was a big thing.
And I think, also a lot of people, when you think of like, being pregnant, some people like, it's like the best time of their lives, right? And it's filled with like, some people don't necessarily have to face as many stress factors as you may have been facing. How did you kind of navigate, this feeling of creating life, but at the same time having to figure out your life?
You know what? It really, it's funny because when I think back to it, I have no like point A to B kind of thing that I've done. I think it was just a series of events. Education was always big to me. So I wanted to get my master's degree. So after I got my daughter, that was really important to me to finish my education, what I wanted to do. So I did that. I graduated last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I wanted to just show myself that life does not stop. I think it became my mantra. I learned affirmations. I read a book on gratitude. I read The Alchemist, which made me want to find my personal legend, which I did, or at least I started the journey. And I went overseas for 2 months, and my father is British, so I stayed with him. And I just traveled with Ayo. We went to Paris, and I prayed in every city that I went to. And, I went to Amsterdam alone, and I wandered around the streets. And I basically, it doesn't take this major grand trip to like piece your life back together. But I think for me as a Sagittarius, as a person who needs to wander and get out and really ask myself these deep, prolific questions, I needed to know that I could do the most, like that I could literally stand at the top of Paris and pray. So I did just that. And I could go stand in front of the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. So I did just that. Like I needed to know that all things were possible. I needed to know that I was capable. I needed to know that I was powerful. And I really just needed to empower myself. So I did. And I called it a journey back to self. And during grad school, we had this project, a video project for one of my classes. And that's exactly what I titled it, A Journey Back to Self. And I basically just recorded all my adventures. And I recorded, losing your home, being in grad school, and kind of fumbling your way through it because it wasn't easy, but my family was really supportive. My friends were really supportive. And when I came back home, I knew a few things, that I wanted to start a place where people can have conversations, which turned into authentic convos. I knew that I wanted to help women have transformations because I had so many people. And that's actually how I started like my following, sharing my stories about being this young single mom. I was 22 at the time. I'm 26 now. And kind of doing these things that I didn't realize took so much strength and so much courage. And I had women older than me just asking me how I did it. And I didn't realize that this was a thing. So yeah, I just kind of fell into it on accident.
So what year did you really start? So I know you said you started freelancing before just to kind of cover small bills, but when was the year that you started building your brand as an influencer?
I think that's something I'm still figuring out. But definitely, I think 2015 is when I started to see what was happening in the world. But 2016 is when things started to come full circle in terms of some of the partnerships and sponsorships that I've done, and people seeing who I was and kind of wanting to work with me. Definitely last year was like a turning point. And I'm sure there will be more turning points. I'm still very much in the infancy of everything that I'm doing.
So let's go back to the beginning of, you sharing your story. What did that look like? Like, were you posting pictures and just writing very thoughtful captions? Like how were you starting to build the community of women that were connecting with you?
So yeah, I definitely was sharing photos. I definitely was sharing like videos, and everything had a very positive vibe to it. That's just where I was in my life. But then I was very transparent. I definitely told people like, I'm here and I'm just trying to figure out like how to make it from A to B. Or I would share with people that I don't want to just survive. Like I've been surviving my entire life. Like I want to live. and just kind of connecting with people authentically in that regard. And when I got back, I think I took it more seriously and kind of being more intentional about what I was sharing and more intentional about how and what I would be doing. And I started my website, ayanaiman.com, where if you ever get a chance to read any of the articles, I don't post as much. And that's actually, there's a reason why. But I was sharing my life. I was sharing going through custody battles and going through, understanding that my dad wasn't in my life for a large part of my life, at least not physically there, a physical presence. And what that meant through to have daddy issues, and sharing, what it means when you affirm something and you actually obtain it, that you still got to do the work. Sharing me becoming a life coach and a lot of my journeys, and, going through struggles with Ayo and her having this speech delay and not talking at the rate they said she would be talking at. And there was a lot, and I shared and I shared without bounds.
What did that sharing process do for you as an individual, like personally? How did that impact you?
Well, it was therapeutic. It was therapeutic, and it was a way for me to understand that my first love was always writing. And although I was although I wasn't being sought out by the New York Times or Essence or all these places that, I dreamed about when I was in college or as a teenager, that I was going to connect with the people that I needed to connect with. And I was going to do it in my own way and do it in my own voice, and that I would be okay.
Yep. And I feel like that's something that a lot of times when let's say there's somebody else who's like a newbie blogger, trying to build a community, sometimes you compare yourself to others' progress, right? Like, how did you kind of keep focused on what you were building and not comparing yourself to what, XX was building, or what, this other person out here was building? Cause that's something that we all kind of encounter, is that desire to compare and to criticize ourselves for where we are in our journeys based upon where we think we should be.
Well, I mean, when you were going through the things that I was going through, you don't really have that much time to harp over what someone else is doing. I think back then it was just fun. It was fun. It was therapeutic. It was very, very, very connected to me and connected to what I was going through. So I wasn't really thinking about what other people were doing because it wasn't a competition for me. It was really an out. Now you're right. Things are different because I do look at things in a different mindset. And I do look at things like, okay, maybe I need to do this, or maybe I need to do X, Y, and Z. But then I'm a coach, and I quickly remember that I'm okay. And that my blessing is my blessing, and your blessing is your blessing. And we might have strengths in different places. And obviously what I'm doing is working for me. So continue to do more of that and be consistent.
Were you, while building, the beginning of like the Ayana Iman brand that you have now, like on social and through your different platforms that you create, did you have a 9-to-5, or were you doing it full time?
Yeah, I still do. Well, I guess this is interesting. So I worked, 9 to 5 at one point in a university. It did not work out, not because I was let go, but because I actually quit. I realized that was actually my first professional position since 2012. So it took me 3 years to get a new job, and not because I wasn't applying, but because I was in school or I was a mom for the year. I was out of commission, and I was doing a lot of freelance work and part-time, so that I was able to nurse and take care of her. So that was actually my first position. And it was funny because I actually affirmed that position. Now that I teach people affirmations. And so a part of my self-help journey was affirming what I wanted. And so the salary, or I manifested it. I manifested the salary. I manifested I would only be working Monday through Friday between certain hours, that I would be off every major holiday, and that I would have X amount of money to be made. So I did all of that. But what I didn't do was I wasn't intentional enough about how I wanted to make the money, or the company I would be at, or the employees I wanted to work with and coworkers I wanted to have and what my boss was like. I didn't actually think about that. So you get what you ask for. And sometimes it's not always what you want. And that's what happened. And I think from my first learning experience, from my first professional job was that I wasn't going to let anyone take my power again. And so maybe me being a little bullheaded, but it was really like, I also learned that in gratitude, you also have to be grateful for when you learn lessons early. And so I was grateful for the position. It allowed me to finally get a home for myself and finally get a bed. That was something I hadn't had for years, and it allowed me to get a car. And I was only there a very short amount of time, but I was okay with that because I was like, I learned very quickly that this isn't for me, and you have to understand energy. And so instead of wasting their time and wasting my time, I decided, you know what, let me fully commit to just being a grad student, because I was a grad student and working full time and being a single mom.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So then I just, was a grad student for the next few months, for at least that rest of the semester. And then in January of last year, I found a position that was a freelance gig that I'm actually still at right now, that allowed me to finish school, allowed me to actually start my speaking career, allowed me the flexibility that I needed while taking care of the bills and doing what I needed to do. And so that's what happened.
Hopefully not 2-hour commute almost anymore.
I actually manifested this position as well. And it was actually in my town or near my town, a 15-minute drive. And it had the flexibility I needed and all the things that I realized I needed when I got the last company that I was at. I got in this position and more.
Wow. So you talk a lot about manifesting, and I think that's something like I'm currently reading the book Think and Grow Rich for Women. Have you ever heard of that?
I have Think and Grow Rich. I didn't know there was a women's version.
Yeah, there's like this woman who's part of the Napoleon Hill Foundation kind of redid it and really talked about how, in the book is very like male focused. It's very like white male focused. So she kind of redid it and was speaking to the woman, the multicultural woman. But anyway, there's like a chapter on manifesting, and what tips would you give, or like how can someone who has never really practiced manifesting start doing it?
Well, I think the funny thing is that we've all manifested in our life without knowing it. People think that, you have to know these buzzwords. I mean, the 27 buzzwords, you can say lit, you can say dope, lit and dope, those are different. But, as far as manifesting and gratitude, that's been around forever. They're just buzzwords for now because more people are becoming aware. And that's a beautiful thing. It's not a bad thing. The thing is, like I said, we have all manifested at one point in our life before. We just didn't know it. If you were a child and you drew a picture of a doll and then you saw that doll in a book and then you kept looking at that doll, begging your parents for it, and then one day it appears, you have kind of manifested that.
Yeah.
Because it's in your dreams. It's in your thoughts. You see it everywhere. You see it on all the commercials. You see it in all your magazines. You hear your friends talking about it. And then one day it appears. And so the thing about manifesting is that it doesn't always necessarily come through out of thin air. Like there's a little actionable action steps behind it. But other than that, it's just the act of calling it into your life. Like regardless of what was going to happen, if it wasn't from your parents, that was going to come into your life in one way, shape, or form. Even if that meant that someone gave you the money, the exact amount of money for you to purchase it yourself. So I believe that years ago, I mean, I manifested a trip to Las Vegas, all expenses paid. Like, it's so crazy how it works. But I think what happens is you have to have a thought of what you want. Mm-hmm. And you need to picture it. And sometimes it's not a thing, like a tangible thing. So you need to visualize like what the reward is, what the payoff is, what you'll feel when you have it. And it needs to just be a really emotional connection. Once you do that, I suggest either writing it down before or writing it down after, once you get in this visualization stage of your life. And so write it down. Some people do that. Like for me, I just write it down. Some people illustrate it through vision boards, while other people, just stay in the visualization phase. But for me, I think doing all three or doing a combination of all is a beautiful thing as well. You can never have too much. And then you have to stay consistent. My affirmations come to my phone every day. I have an iPhone, so they come in my reminders. So every day I'm reminded I am fearless. Every day I am reminded that I am building wealth and what I'm doing to get there. And so I'm reminded of the woman that I am going to be, because that is the woman that I'm working for. And so affirmations are just affirming yourself to your highest self, and you're gonna manifest those things through hard work, and you're gonna manifest those things because the story is already written. It's a divine interaction. You're gonna manifest those things because the universe aligns you with your thoughts. So if you're thinking it, therefore you will have it, or therefore you are. And I'm a big believer in that. And I actually created the 3 A's of change. So for me, it's the 3 A's are to affirm, align, and activate. So the first is to affirm it. Affirm your highest self. Affirm what you want. Affirm that trip. Affirm your credits better. Affirm, your edges are slayer, or whatever it is. Be so small and minimal. And then align with it. So to align with it, you got to align your mind, body, and spirit. So for instance, I said I manifested a trip to Las Vegas. When I graduated from college, I wanted to go to Vegas. I thought that was the ultimate graduation trip. So little did I know that all my friends were going to be broke when it came down to it. And I was going to be broke too. And so, that trip, I just felt like I was never going to go on it. But I remember just looking at the flight prices and looking at, what room I would stay in. And so, although I didn't have the money to go, I just remember just always thinking about Vegas. And someone said, what trip you can go on? I'm like, I'm going to Vegas. And then one day I was on Craigslist and I applied for this gig because, again, I've always been a hustler. I applied through this gig in the gig section, and it looked fake. And it said, all expense paid trip to Vegas for 1 week with a meal voucher and a room and a flight.
What did you have to do? I'm here thinking, like, where's this going?
I was not selling any parts of myself. I honestly, it's going to be so funny. I was a mic runner for 1 week.
A mic runner?
Yeah. Do you know what a mic runner is? A person that just honestly just takes the mic to each person in the room. That's all I did. I swear. I don't even swear like
and
that.
And it was paid? Like they paid you on top of paying?
And I paid a fee because that's so long ago. I made $1,000. I made $1,000 in 7 days. I stayed in the Venetian Hotel for 7 days. I had my own suite. I had 3 TVs. I had a bathroom with the toilet in another room with a TV in there, a TV in my room, and then a TV in the living room. I had a queen size bed. I had a voucher to eat at Grand Lux Cafe. That's probably why I can't eat there now. I think it was like a $30 meal voucher every day. And if you didn't use it, you could add it on for the next day. I also received it wasn't 500. It was $300 gift card to Macy's. And I was told to go buy whatever you want and then just bring the receipt. Now, this wasn't a sugar daddy, so I have to explain what the conference was.
People listening probably like side eye. What is this?
Like, nothing like that. That would make for an interesting story. But I was actually in a relationship at the time. It was a conference for people learning about dividends and learning about stocks, buying. Wow. And the guy, I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy was an actor who became really great in the financial world, and he was buying and selling stocks and teaching people about day trading. And I learned a lot. I can't remember it all, but I'm sure I have some words that I remember. But it was just all about stocks and bonds and savings. And it's funny because now the point that I am right now in my life, those are the things I want to learn, and those are the things that I'm pushing myself to be progressive in, so that I'm able to learn to do that. Again, I'm in this wealth building mindset. So years ago, I was in a place where that's where other people were. And I did that for a week, and it was very fun. I mean, I was on the Strip. I was by myself. There was another girl who was doing it with me. She was an actress. So we became really good friends for that week. And we ate lunch and breakfast together. And I remember going to Wolfgang Puck's for dinner and watching the gondola that was in my hotel. And just having a really good time. And I swear to God, I went there with $100 in my pocket. I had zero money, like $100. And I think my bank account was negative like $20, something crazy.
Wow.
Again, college student. Well, actually, I was still in college until August. I walked in May, but I technically didn't graduate until August because I had 2 classes to finish. I remember having $100. My dad wired me from England, and I did not have enough to put the $100
room deposit.
Yeah, room deposit. Then they never told me about it, so I wasn't prepared for it. And so that's what happened. The woman put it on her card. She told me to switch it, but I never did. And no, until the last day that we were there. But she was, she was okay with it because nothing was broken and nothing was taken out of the refrigerators and everything was fine. But yeah, looking back, I don't know how I did that, how I went on an all expense paid trip with $100 in my pocket and negative $20 in my bank account. It is a story that I tell everyone about manifesting, because while I was there, I wrote down on a piece of paper, and if I go on my Instagram, I can find it, on a Venetian pad, like a writing pad, I put, I want to inspire. And this is years ago. This is before I'm pregnant. This is before I lose my home. Little do I know any of these things would come about months later. But I said that I want to inspire. Those are one of the things that I put on that pen and paper. And again, this is about aligning. So back to the aligning phase, you affirm it. For me, it was the Vegas trip. You align with it. All my thoughts were Vegas. And then, oh my God, I find this job for Vegas. But I say you have to work. So that is part 3. That is the activate, take action. So as soon as I saw a job that was going to Vegas, I took action. I applied for it. I interviewed twice. I had to go all the way to New York City. And actually, I was at the Javits Center, so I wasn't too far away from where I had to go to interview. But I remember going to the hotels and meeting the woman in the mail who eventually hired me, and them being very impressed. I remember wearing this Banana Republic dress. It was really pretty. And just being there and having to really account for myself and tell them that I was the right person for this job. And they thought so too. And I got hired for the week's gig. But I said it to say that in all things, affirmations without action produce no results. So if you aren't taking actionable steps, then those affirmations will only be words on a paper or words spoken in the wind. And you have to take action, and you have to align with it. You have to trim the fat, the negative behavior that makes you think that you can't attain that affirmation and manifest what needs to be in your life. And you also have to trim the fat of the people that don't serve you. If you got around you, you have to let them out your life. They have to leave in order for you to obtain that blessing. And also you have to check yourself. I think a lot of people forget that most of the things in our lives are our own faults. Most of the things, not everything. Some things are out of our control. And so for the things you can control, like your behavior and your actions, you have to trim the fat there too. If something doesn't serve you that you're doing, then it's time to stop it. If it's procrastinating, don't do it. It's something I'm still going through in my life. But I think out of all the things that have happened in my life, and some things sound very, I guess, fairy tale-ish, and some things sound very dreadful. And it was both dreadful and fairy tale, and very beautiful and very crazy and very exciting all at the same time. But I credit all the things that have happened to me in my life to say that I'm here where I'm at now. Everything has come full circle, at least as full as it needs to be in order for me to go to the next leg of my journey.
I love all that. Affirm, align, and activate. And is that part of like the work that you do with your clients as, a certified life coach?
Yes. So that's how I run my sessions, affirm, align, activate. I mean, the first session after the intake session is just the affirmations, like what is going on in your life, what's eating you, what's wrong, and how can we prevent that from happening? Mm-hmm. And so I actually create affirmations to combat everything that they're thinking. So, and put it in a positive frame. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't have X, Y, and Z, or I don't feel pretty enough. Then your first affirmation is I am beautiful. And during the series of work that we do together, I'm going to get you to that point.
Wow. But let's take it another route, just because I really want to make sure we have some time to talk about this, because I know it's something that, a lot of our dream drivers are also mothers. They may be single mothers. They may be, in relationships, but at any point, motherhood is something that is not always easy. How has motherhood really impacted your journey as an entrepreneur, your dream driving journey in general? Like, what have been some of the major things you've learned about yourself, as part of motherhood?
I've definitely learned that I was a child having a child. And that Ayo and I are growing up together. Now, don't get me wrong. It forces you to grow up real quick, especially when you got to pay for daycare and everything else. But I realized that I was not going to be a perfect mom. I just was not going to be a perfect mom, but I was going to be a damn good mother. And I was going to be a provider and a caregiver and a nurturer. And there were things that I grew into during the 9 months that I was carrying her, during the conversations that I would have with her, or me apologizing for stressing her, if I had a stress day. And so our connection, it's not mom and that's like my sister. No, like that's my child. She's 3 years old. I'm 26. I'm a grown woman now. And we are growing up together. So as she grows up, I'm growing up, I'm figuring things out, but in everything that I'm doing, I'm going to teach it to her. So I think what it's done is it's made me realize, the value of the things that my parents have done, but it's also made me realize that some of those things don't apply now, just living in the times that we live in. And so I have to be more transparent with Ayo, and I need to be more hands-on with her in regards to the things that she wants to do with her life and guide her through them. I don't know if Ayo will go to college. Like, I don't even know if it exists. That's okay with me. Like, I just want her to be the best person she can be. And I want to teach her the skill set. And I want to make sure she understands her skill set and her worth so that she's not looking to become an employee at a job. Like, she is creating the positions and she is using her skills to do so.
How do you find the time to balance everything? With everything that you're doing, like, what are some ways that you kind of find time for everything?
I mean, not every day is crazy. I mean, there are some days that are crazy and some days that aren't. For instance, Saturday I speak at Kean University. And I know it's your alma mater, and I speak there on Saturday, and I have a gala to attend that evening, and I have a photo walk with my boyfriend that afternoon. And so my entire day is packed. So the only way I'm able to do that is I have help. I have my family's support, and I have my friends' support. And I have people that, my family watches her for me, and she's in a safe, secure place. And fortunately, my daughter loves them, and she has a really good time. And sometimes she likes them more than me.
At this age already?
Yeah. I mean, it's starting early. She's very aware of herself, of her body. She just told me, Mommy, I'm not a baby anymore. I'm a girl. Not a baby. And I'm like,
she's only 3 and she was able to articulate that to you.
She is able to articulate that. I'm very big on emotional intelligence. So I teach her to be aware of herself, to be aware of her body, to be aware of her thoughts. And we do affirmations together. And so that's what I say. We grow up together, and I'm looking at her blossom.
What do you think has been the biggest self-awareness shift that you've experienced?
That I can be confident, and it doesn't mean being cocky. It doesn't mean being arrogant. It does not mean any of those things. In contrary, it actually means that I can be my full self and not have to shrink my existence to make other people feel comfortable. Or like the woman told me I had a strong personality. No, I was just very confident, and it scared you. And so I guess that's to bring that conversation full circle. That's what I learned. Again, your power is in your tongue, and your power is in your actions, and it's in the way you move and how you carry yourself. And when you're a confident person, and when you walk into a room, that's what people are attracted to. They're attracted to your. But if you walk into a room with your head down, no one's looking or checking for you. And that's something that I learned, to walk into a room, to let it be known that I'm okay with being me. And I've met more friends that way. I've met more connections that way. And it's been a beautiful journey.
How what if you're somebody who that confidence doesn't come naturally, right? What are some steps or what are some tips you would give to that person who's trying to work on building that confidence and that ability to walk into a room with their head high?
Well, that's the thing. I was not always this person. And I think one of the things that I shared in this conversation was that I was very introverted, insecure, trying to find myself through men, trying to find myself through other people, through people's ideas of me. But it wasn't until I accepted me. I accepted myself. I accepted my hair. I accepted, that my skin wasn't perfect and that I was a shapely girl and that I was still cute. I was still beautiful, that I was smart, and that I was okay if I didn't have someone attached to me, or I wasn't attached to someone else. And that I would always be okay. I think for me, that's the deciding factor between being confident and not being confident. But for the people that are struggling with it now, just know that it's okay to be you. It's okay to own yourself. It's okay to say that I'm not there yet. I was not there yet. My first affirmation was I am loved. I had to become that affirmation because again, it's you affirming yourself to your highest self. And so I think in all things that you can do is just always take action. Take action to become more confident and more self-aware. Take action to understand that your EQ is just as important, if not more important, than your IQ. Yep. Your EQ is your emotional intelligence. And if you understand yourself and you understand your emotions, it'll make you a better leader, a better person, a better coworker, a better boss, a better employee. You can do all things and you can ask for help. I mean, I've gotten professional help from counselors. I became a coach to give help. I mean, you have to seek help for the things that you don't know. And it's not know, but you have to ask and you have to take action.
In our community, I feel like asking for help is something that's often stigmatized. So knowing that you don't have to work within those stigmas, you can definitely reach out and ask and you won't be judged. And I think that's something that, a lot of brown and Black people, something that we don't do enough of is we kind of just suffer in silence and we don't have to, we didn't really talk about the entrepreneurial part of what you're doing too much, but what has been one of the biggest business lessons that you've learned just in building your brand, through freelancing, through building the Ayana Iman legacy? Like, what have been some core business lessons that you've learned?
Some core business lessons that I've learned and that I'm still learning. Just yesterday, I went to a class about taxes. I think what I'm learning is that you can never have enough information and that information is a valuable commodity, more important than money sometimes, because it'll allow you to not make certain mistakes. I've learned that my relationship to money in the past is not my relationship now, and that you can change it. You can change your habits and that actually translate into your businesses. Because when you bring a poverty mindset into what you're doing, it will translate into how your business is ran. What else? I've also learned your most client retention will come from word of mouth, or not just word of mouth, but by referrals. That's actually what it'll come from, referrals. So do a great job with whoever you're working with. And then allow them to refer you to their friends and family, and they will if you've done well. And then you'll constantly have people coming to you. And then also you can't be afraid to go get it, whatever that is for you. So if it's more clients, you have to do the work. If you need to work on your ads, like I do a lot of fast Facebook ads, I do a lot of emails. If you need to connect to people, then do that. If you have a quota to hit. If you need a certain skill set and you need a mentor, this is something I'm actually learning right now. Is not always you look and ask for a mentor. Sometimes it really happens naturally and organically, but you have to be intentional about what you're finding and what you can offer. And something I'm also learning, because after, hosting Authentic Convos, I constantly have to ask people for help to find the perfect panelist for that particular conversation, or finding sponsors. If you're going to ask somebody for something, be prepared to give something in return. It does not mean that you're going to do it right then and there, but at least make sure the conversation is open so that people know that you're not just a taker, you're also a giver.
Oh, I love all of those points. So dream drivers listening in, make sure that you've got to rewind and write those things down. Ayana, I'm here scribbling notes myself. Okay, so last question, Ayana, is what keeps you going when you feel like giving up? Because dream driving journeys are not always the easiest. There has to be something that's motivating you, something that kind of helped you through those dark moments. What's yours?
I think I always have to come down to my why. And my why is to serve people.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm in a room and I'm with people and all eyes are on me, and you can hear a pin drop because people are listening to every word that I say, it makes me realize how much value comes from my experience. And not only that, how much value I want to provide in their lives, because then they can return the favor to someone else. Mm-hmm. And it's a domino effect of positivity. When people see themselves within you, they see the light within. And for me, that's very important. I want to be that light. I want to be that connector. I want to help people have beautiful transformations. And I want to continue to serve the people in every way I possibly can, whether it's through authentic convos, whether it's through coaching, whether it's through speaking, whether it's through other business initiatives that I choose to take on, and all things that I want to do. I want to make sure I'm adding value to people's lives, mm-hmm. because I want to make sure that they can do the same for someone else.
So let's go into our lightning round. Are you ready, Ayana?
Sure.
So this part of the interview, I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to just tell me the first word that comes to mind. And remember, we're sticking with our whole dreams and drive metaphor, okay? So the first word is park.
Park. Be in the moment.
Reverse.
Look at all the things that you've done and take a moment to reflect on the past, and then think about what you can do better.
Neutral.
Sometimes it's better to be neutral in certain instances when it comes to dealing with other people. It doesn't always need a reaction, and it doesn't always need an emotion. Sometimes it just needs you to sit and be at peace with it until you can find the right words to use to get through it.
And last but not least, drive.
Never play small and put the metal. Well, no. Put your foot to the pedal. That's what I'm trying to do. When you're really going for it, go for it. Don't back down and put your foot on the brake. Like, go full throttle and definitely hit the highway, and don't be afraid to take new paths. Don't be afraid to drive to new places, and definitely don't be afraid to change cars if you need to.
And good segue, because if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver really needs in their toolkit before they hit the road.
You know what's funny? Can I actually change that? I think sometimes we get so stuck on making things perfect before we put it into drive. Mm-hmm. So I think it's something that you just have to do. Like, mm-hmm. just put your foot on the gas and press. It doesn't have to be, all the way down, but just press. A lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people just started. They didn't have a plan. They didn't have a business plan. They didn't have anything. They just started. I'm sure Facebook even started that way. You really just have to start, and the plan will come. Do the work, and the plan will come. I think that's my biggest lesson. Don't wait for perfection to get things started, or else you're just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. So I think that's the first thing. The first thing you should have in your toolbox is action, mm-hmm. and the plan will come. I think the next thing is to work on self-awareness. Because if you're self-aware, you'll know if you're doing something for ego's sake, or if you're doing it for the greater good of yourself or the company or for people. And then also always remembering to attack everything like a child, like your childlike self. And so what I mean by that is that when you're a child, you look at everything from a grand standpoint. You don't think about money. You don't think about anything. You just think about, oh, what a great day that will be, And when I obtain it, or when I become this actress or astronaut or rocket scientist, mm-hmm. You have to dream big, and you have to do it with the childlike mentality where you're not putting the weight of the world on your shoulders, like, oh, these bills and all the hows of how it might have to go. You're just thinking about your why, and you're thinking about why I want to do it. And if it's I want to have fun, then cool. That's sometimes a driving force for people. But I think that's it. Like, approach things with a childlike mentality so that you're dreaming big, and then follow it up with that action.
Thank you so much, Ayana. I really enjoyed this conversation. I have so many notes. I feel so inspired. I'm going to start affirming, aligning, and activating, really kind of figuring out what is it that I want to manifest in my own life. And I hope that our dream drivers do as well. Can you tell us where we can connect with you? Let's say people want to learn more about you, want to follow you on social. Let us know where we can find you.
Well, you can definitely find me at ayana.com. And it's Ayana Iman across the board. So Ayana Iman, 1 N. That's actually a pet peeve of mine. It's 1 N. It's Ayana Iman website, Ayana Iman on Instagram, Ayana Iman on Facebook, Ayana Iman on Twitter, Ayana Iman everywhere.
Well, I will definitely link to everything in the show notes as well. So if you guys didn't catch that, you can just go to dreamsanddrive.com and click on this episode, and you'll be able to get everything there. Thank you so much, Ayana. This was so encouraging, so uplifting, and you definitely are inspiring, as what you wrote on that, the Venetia stationery way back when, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 93 with Ayana Iman. I hope that you enjoyed hearing her dream driving story, as well as her keys to success. Now, if this is your first time listening to us, make sure that you are subscribed. Hit that subscribe button wherever you are listening to this podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, whether it be SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Acast, wherever. Hit the subscribe button so that every week when we have a new episode, you are alerted and you don't miss out, because we have lots of good stuff happening in July. So I want to make sure that you are alerted and that you are in the know. If you want today's show notes, just go to dreamsanddrive.com and click on episode 93. There's a bunch of tweetables that are going to be with this episode, so you can definitely click to tweet. You can definitely share, check out the resources, check out Ayana's site, and just browse the website as well. There's a lot of things on the website that I don't necessarily talk about a lot. We have a free resources page, so you can just go to dreamsanddrive.com/free. You can just search different things and let me know what you think about the website, because I'm thinking about changing it. And honestly, the website was something that I built really quickly by myself back in December 2015. I think I built it in a day, but I'm definitely thinking about maybe changing up the website. So if you have any ideas, please let me know. And on the topic of ideas, the 100th episode is coming up fairly quickly. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do for that episode. So if you have any ideas, feel free to email me, Raina@dreamsanddrive.com. I definitely am going to do a recap of some sort. I want to do a section for listener question and answer. So you can definitely send me an email, Raina@dreamsanddrive.com, if you want to submit a question. As always, I am so grateful for all you who keep listening in. Our Dream Driver community is growing by the day. Thank you to everyone who's in our Facebook group. If you want to be in the Facebook group too, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook, and you can definitely come on over, and I will accept your request ASAP. All right, so keep dreaming, keep driving, and we shall chat again in episode 94.